In December 2024, Apple did something it had never done before in its 48-year history. For the first time ever, it manufactured more iPhones outside of China than inside it. Not by a little, by a lot. And most of those phones, they came from a single factory in Tamil Nadu, India, where 20,000 workers now do what Shenzhen used to do alone. This isn't a headline, it's a tectonic shift. For 3 decades, China was the factory of the world, untouchable, irreplaceable, the place where everything from your sneakers to your semiconductors got made, shipped, and sold. But now something's changing, not loudly, not officially, but undeniably. India isn't just rising, it's replacing. And if you're not paying attention, you're missing the single biggest restructuring of global trade since World War II. Hey, this is GoldieX, and if you find this stuff as fascinating as I do, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It helps more than you think. Let's talk about how the world's supply chains are being rewritten in real time, and why the country doing the rewriting might not be ready for what comes next. Here's the thing about supply chains. They're boring until they're not. For most people, they're invisible. You click buy, the thing shows up. End of story. But underneath that click is a system so complex, so finely tuned, that moving even a small piece of it is like performing surgery on a running engine. And right now, that engine is being rebuilt. The reason is simple. China is no longer the safe bet it used to be. COVID exposed the fragility. When Shanghai locked down in 2022, global shipping froze. Factories went dark. Container ships floated in circles. The world realized it had put all its eggs in one very large, very controlled basket. Then came the geopolitics, Taiwan, trade wars, tariffs. The US-China relationship went from complicated to hostile. American companies started getting nervous. European firms followed. It wasn't ideology. It was math. If you're Apple and 70% of your iPhones come from one country, and that country might get sanctioned, blockaded, or caught in a war over an island, you have a problem. So Apple started looking for Plan B, and Plan B had a name: India. By 2023, Apple had moved $15 billion worth of iPhone production to India. By 2024, that number doubled. Foxconn, the Taiwanese giant that assembles most of the world's iPhones, opened massive factories in Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. Pegatron followed. Wistron set up shop. The Indian government rolled out the red carpet: tax breaks, subsidies, free land, fast-tracked permits. They called it the Production-Linked Incentive Scheme, a fancy name for a simple idea. We'll pay you to make stuff here instead of there. And it worked. In 2020, India made 3% of the world's iPhones. In 2024, it made 14%. That's not a trend. That's a sprint. But it's not just phones. Samsung moved its largest mobile manufacturing plant to Noida. Micron announced a $2.75 billion chip plant in Gujarat. Tesla's in talks to build cars in Maharashtra. Even toys, textiles, and auto parts, industries China dominated for decades, are shifting east. India exported $176 billion in manufactured goods in 2023. A record. And analysts project that number could hit $400 billion by 2030. On paper, it looks like a miracle. But let's zoom in, because the reality is messier than the pitch deck. Here's what India has going for it. 1. Labor. Lots of it. Over 1 billion people, half of them under 30. Wages are lower than China's, and the workforce is young, hungry, and growing. 2. Democracy. It sounds soft, but it matters. Western governments would rather deal with New Delhi than Beijing. India doesn't have social credit scores or camps in Xinjiang. That makes it palatable. 3. Infrastructure investment. India's spending $500 billion on Roads, ports, and railways over the next 5 years. The kind of unglamorous stuff that makes supply chains hum. 4. The China hedge. No company wants to say it out loud, but everyone's thinking it. Diversification isn't optional anymore. It's survival. So far, so good. But here's the uncomfortable part. India is not China. Not even close. Let's start with the obvious. Infrastructure. China spent 4 decades building the best logistics network on the planet. Highways that move goods at 70 miles an hour. Ports that unload a container ship in hours. Trains that run on time. India's getting better. But right now, moving a container from Mumbai to Delhi takes longer than shipping it from Shanghai to Los Angeles. Roads are clogged, ports are slow, bureaucracy is thick. A 2023 World Bank report ranked India 72nd in logistics performance. China was 26th. That gap costs money, time, reliability. Then there's power. Factories need electricity. Lots of it. Consistently. China has excess capacity. India has rolling blackouts in the summer and an electrical grid that runs on coal, hope, and political promises. Foxconn's Tamil Nadu plant had to install its own backup generators. That's not a sign of readiness. That's a workaround. Then there's scale. China has entire cities built around manufacturing. Shenzhen isn't just a tech hub. It's an ecosystem. You can prototype a product in the morning, source components by lunch, and have a factory making 10,000 units by the weekend. India doesn't have that. Yet. It has pockets of excellence. Bangalore for tech, Pune for auto, but it's fragmented, disconnected. The supply chain equivalent of a jigsaw puzzle missing half the pieces. And there's labor, which sounds like an advantage until you dig deeper. India has people, lots of them. But does it have skilled people? Foxconn reportedly rejected 90% of applicants at its Indian plants. Not because they didn't want to work, because they didn't have the training. China's vocational education system produces millions of factory-ready workers every year. India's education system produces engineers who can't wire a circuit board and graduates who can't get jobs. The mismatch is staggering. Now let's talk about the thing nobody wants to say out loud. India is corrupt. Not everywhere, not everyone, but enough that it shows up in every international ranking. Transparency International's 2023 Corruption Perceptions Index put India at 93rd. China was 76th. Bribes for permits, delays for inspections, sudden tax raids on foreign firms. In 2023, Xiaomi had its Indian assets frozen over alleged tax violations. The company denied wrongdoing. The case is still unresolved. Whether it's legitimate or not doesn't matter. The signal is clear. Investing here comes with political risk. Then there's land acquisition. In China, if the government wants land for a factory, it takes it. Fast. Fair or not, it's efficient. In India, land acquisition can take years. Farmers protest, courts intervene, projects stall. Tata's nano car plant in West Bengal was supposed to be a game changer. It got scrapped after violent land disputes. This isn't ancient history. This is how India works. But here's the irony. Despite all of this, companies are still coming. Why? Because the alternative is worse. Staying in China means exposure to tariffs, sanctions, and geopolitical chaos. India is messy, slow, and frustrating, but it's also established, democratic-ish, and desperately eager to make this work. And that eagerness matters. The Indian government knows this is a once-in-a-generation opportunity. It's cutting red tape faster than ever before. It's offering incentives China can't match. It's making promises. Whether it can keep them is another question. Let's zoom out. If India pulls this off, if it becomes even half the manufacturing hub China is, the implications are enormous. Geopolitically, it weakens China's leverage. Right now, Beijing can weaponize supply chains, rare earths, semiconductors, pharmaceuticals. If the world depends on you for everything, you have power. India spreading that dependency dilutes that power. Economically, it could lift hundreds of millions of Indians out of poverty. Manufacturing jobs are the historical engine of middle-class growth. It worked for Japan. It worked for South Korea. It worked for China. Could it work for India? Maybe. But there's a darker scenario. What if India becomes the next cheap labor dumping ground? What if foreign companies set up shop, exploit low wages, avoid taxes through loopholes, and leave the moment the incentives dry up? What if this isn't a rise, but a extraction? Here's what's happening right now that most people aren't noticing. Vietnam is also rising, so is Mexico, Bangladesh, Indonesia, Thailand. This isn't just about India replacing China. It's about the entire model of globalization splintering. For 30 years, the world ran on a simple idea. Make it where it's cheapest, sell it where it's richest. That's over. Now it's make it where it's safest, sell it where it's friendliest. We're entering the era of friend-shoring, ally-shoring, bloc economics. The US wants chips made in allied countries. Europe wants batteries made locally. China wants self-sufficiency. Everyone's building walls. India is betting it can be on the right side of those walls. But walls work both ways. So here's the final question. Is India ready? Not in 5 years. Not in theory. Right now. Because the orders are coming in. The factories are being built. The workers are showing up. But the roads are still jammed. The power still cuts out. The bureaucrats still want their cut. India has the opportunity. It has the people. It has the attention of every major corporation on Earth. What it doesn't have is time. China didn't become the factory of the world by accident. It took planning, discipline, decades of intentional infrastructure investment and political will. India is trying to do it faster, in a more chaotic system, with more stakeholders, more democracy, more noise. Maybe that's the advantage. Maybe messiness is a feature, not a bug. Or maybe it's the thing that breaks this whole experiment before it even starts. The world is watching India. The question isn't whether it can replace China. The question is whether it can handle what happens when it does.